Good morning. I'm the Reverend Julie Ann Lepp. It is a pleasure to be with you this morning on May 2nd, 2021. We are celebrating this wonderful month of May and grateful to be with you. I'm the minister at this congregation. Thank you for joining us online. Our opening words are these: the new world is being built. As we opened the higher power of the universe and consciously all that creative energy to move through us. As each of us connects with our spiritual awareness, we learn that the creative power of the universe is within us. We also learn that we can create our reality and take responsibility for doing so. This is from Reflections in the Light by Shakti Gawanen. By Diane New. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. My name is Megan, and I am coming to you with a message from the Social Responsibility Committee. First, I want to share that our 50-50 Share the Plate recipient this month, it's a new month, so a new recipient, and it is the Wellness Shack in Eau Claire. The Wellness Shack is a peer-run mental health recovery center for those who live with persistent or severe mental health disorders. Peer-run means that the organization is actually managed and operated by people who use the Wellness Shack. So it creates an environment of true acceptance and true understanding while demonstrating real-life progress. All the services are free. Formal and informal peer support, educational support, social activities. So your contributions this month will help the Wellness Shack continue its mission of creating both a physical and a mental sanctuary in our community. And one more thing, you may have seen some talk about a potential blood drive at our congregation building, but it would be through the Red Cross in September. So we're asking that if anyone is potentially interested in donating blood or volunteering at the event at our building in September, to please register via the link on our Facebook page or via a link in the UU Connections. This does not commit you to donating blood or volunteering. It merely demonstrates your potential interest in donating. The Red Cross can only set up a donation site if we can demonstrate interest from 30 individuals. We're currently about halfway there. So if you're interested or know someone who might be interested, please see the link on our Facebook page or in the UU Connections. Again, it does not commit you to anything. It's just meant to be an acknowledgement of interest so we can move forward with the next steps of planning it.
Hello, I am Molly Larson. I'm the Young Adult Liaison on the UU board. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation. We are a religious community who commit ourselves to diversity. We hope to nourish human differences, those of gender, race, age, ability, sexual orientation, political views, culture, class, and religious belief. Welcome to all those who treasure freedom of conscience in the search for truth. We promise to do our best to provide you with a spiritual home. We extend a special welcome to our visitors today, and we hope you follow our Facebook page. To participate in Zoom and receive announcements about special events and our religious exploration classes, please sign up for our weekly email. There should be a link in the comments section on our Facebook page where you can sign up. Also, families can follow our UUC Religious Exploration Facebook page. There are religious exploration classes for 4K through 9th grade and youth group every Wednesday online for middle school and high school. We're so glad you joined us today.
All right, my name is Claire and I will be lighting the chalice. This is the mission of our faith, to teach the fragile art of hospitality, to revere both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to witness to all that we must hold the world in our hands.
Good morning. The reading is on Passion, A Reason in Passion from Kahil Gibran, the book, The Prophet. And the priestess spoke again and said, "Speak to us of reason and passion." And he answered, saying, "Your soul is oftentimes a battlefield upon which your reason and your judgment wage war against your passion and your appetite. Would that I could be the peacemaker in your soul, that I might turn the discord and the rivalry of your elements into oneness and melody. But how shall I, unless you yourselves be also the peacemakers, nay, the lovers of all your elements? Your reason and your passion are the rudder and the sails of your seafaring soul. If either your sails or your rudder be broken, you can but toss and drift, or else be held at standstill in mid-seas. For reason, ruling alone, is a force confining, and passion, unattended, is a flame that burns to its own destruction. Therefore, let your soul exalt your reason to the height of passion, that it may sing, and let it direct your passion with reason, that your passion may live through its own daily resurrection, and like the phoenix rise above its own ashes. I would have you consider your judgment and your appetite even as you would two loved guests in your house. Surely you would not honor one guest above the other, for he who is more mindful of one loses the love and the faith of both. Among the hills, when you sit in the cool shade of the white poplars, sharing the peace and serenity of distant fields and meadows, then let your heart say in silence, "God rests in reason." And when the storm comes and the mighty wind shakes the forest and thunder and lightning proclaim the majesty of the sky, then let your heart say in awe, "God moves in passion." And since you are a breath in God's sphere and a leaf in God's forest, you too should rest in reason and move in passion.
And now we're going to be reading a reading from Denise Levertov, and this is called Beginners. But we have only begun to love the earth. We have only begun to imagine the fullness.
How could we tire of hope? So much is in bud.
How can desire fail? We have only begun to imagine justice and mercy.
Only begun to envision how it might be to live as siblings with beast and flower, not as oppressors.
Surely our river cannot already be hastening into the sea of non-being.
Surely it cannot drag in the silt all that is innocent.
Not yet, not yet. There is too much broken that must be mended.
Too much hurt that we have done to each other that cannot yet be forgiven.
We have only begun to know the power that is in us if we would join our solitudes in the communion of struggle.
So much is unfolding that must complete its gesture. So much is in bud.
Now is the time in our service where we share our deepest joys and concerns. If you have a joy or concern that you would like to share into this space, I invite you to share it in the chat, either here on Zoom or on Facebook, and we will share in on our circle of community together. I would like to first light a candle for those in India who are suffering, and I've seen friends here in the States who are also struggling with loved ones who have been lost. We light this candle for India. Like to also light a candle of joy for all of our new members that have joined recently, and Claire Shepherdson, who lit the candle today, and so many that we are getting to know from online, and as we meet in person, either at the UU or for a walk, or our world continues to evolve thanks to science and our community. So thank you, everyone. From Kurt, we have a joy and concern starting a new position at Mayo on May 12th. We light a candle for Kurt. Molly has a joy of adopting a dog. And let me just look up here real quick here. And we'll be picking her up on Friday. That's wonderful. And Danny has a joy for the sunshine on May Day and digging in fertile soil. We also have love and hugs and safe travels to Pam Mayer as she moves on to her space in California. Ashley Lynn asked for a candle for her estranged sister. It's her birthday today, and for my mom. We light a candle for them. And Sue says that she's thankful for the beautiful weather yesterday and the opportunity to socialize more now that we are fully vaccinated. Claire has concern for my grandpa who is feeling sick recently. Candle. Ruth shares, please light a candle of joy for being able to attend a mini service in our beautiful sanctuary. It was wonderful that we've had, I think, 3 Wednesday services now, maybe more than that, 4 maybe. And we're doing these tiny little gatherings, and to hear live music and to be together just in present is really beautiful. Thank you, Ruth. I'm gonna light this final candle for all the joys and concerns. Whoop, we have one more actually. James says that he is finding joy on finding out that he will have a new granddaughter and also being fully vaccinated. He did feel bad the next day. Well, thank you for all your joys and concerns in this space. And I light this final candle for all the joys and concerns too tender to escape the folds of our heart. We will close with the words that we always say. Love is the spirit of this church. and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
Find a stillness, hold a stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
We begin with this reading called Counsels by Marge Percy. We must sit down and reason together.
Perhaps we should sit in the dark. In the dark, we could utter our feelings.
In the dark, we could propose and describe and suggest.
In the dark, we could not see who speaks, and only the words would say what they say.
No one would speak more than twice. No one would speak less than once.
Thus saying what we feel and what we want, what we fear for ourselves and each other, into the dark.
Perhaps we could begin to listen.
The women must learn to dare to speak. The men must learn to bother to listen.
The women must learn to say, I think this is so.
The men must learn to stop dancing solos on the ceiling.
After each speaks, she or he or they will say a ritual phrase.
It is not I who speaks, but the wind. Wind blows through me long after me. It is the wind. Before I get started, I want to acknowledge the dedicated efforts of all those who are involved in making these services happen. The coordination and technology required by our community members to make this work is really quite amazing, and I'm very grateful, and I say thank you. In the past year or so, we have constantly been bombarded by examples of the use and abuse of power from so many perspectives. We are all aware of families and individuals who have experienced the abuse of power in a very personal and intimate way. The power entrusted to local, state, national, and global figures, as well as those valued as public servants, has been viewed by many of us to have been breached. Power, which could be used to benefit the greater good, has so often been used for the benefit of the few, or even worse, to dehumanize and oppress those viewed as less than, those viewed to be as human others. I have witnessed in my lifetime those with political power intentionally legislate an increasing disparity between much of the population and the wealthy. According to Federal Reserve data published in October of 2020, the top 1% of Americans have a combined net worth of $34.2 trillion, or 30.4% of all household wealth in the US, while the bottom 50% of the population holds just 2.1 trillion, or 1.9% of all the wealth. This consolidation and concentration of wealth and power has been very carefully orchestrated. Over the past year, we have witnessed significant disparity in the use of military and police power based on persons' ethnicities, gender, and socioeconomic statuses. We have witnessed that those with power are more highly valued and catered to. Sam Keen, an American author most renowned for his book Fire in the Belly, has shared, "The powerful have always been willing to baptize the status quo and name it peace, and the impotent are regularly accused of being troublemakers when all they truly seek is justice." Both systemic and systematic strategies of power have been and continue to oppress the voices of the troublemakers. I could go on with example after example of how power that has the potential to be the source of such good has hurt so many. Intense passion for an agenda, a position, or action can so often override reason. I want to believe that there is a desire to use power for good. Perhaps we lack the wisdom or discipline needed to manage great power. Many of you know that I am a real fond fan of Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. And in the first of the trilogy, the Fellowship of the Ring, Gandalf, one of the wizards in Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, articulates his limitations when Frodo begs him to take the Ring of Power. And Gandalf responds, "Understand, Frodo, I would use this ring from a desire to do good, but through me, it would wield a power too great and terrible to imagine." Can you imagine what it would be like if most of our leaders had this perspective of power? I think it's easy to think of power as mostly a bad thing. Our passions can take over, and our use of power can become dominating and hurtful. We can become overwhelmed by others' power and control and lose our own voice and our own agency. Perhaps when it comes to viewing power, we need a lens that takes into consideration a range of possibilities and options. There are several sources that I'm drawn to in pondering my power, and I try to manage it with balance and reason in meeting my own needs and contemplating the impact that my use of power may have on others. And I'm the first to admit that I am often not successful in that. When I worked in the domestic violence and sexual assault arena, the dynamics of power and control within an interpersonal context was constantly guiding and forming my perspectives on power and my use of it. Attaining and retaining personal agency was absolutely essential for not only myself, but especially for my staff and the people needing and accessing our services. Then, while working in team and supervisory management training, as well as in executive management and consulting, understanding and implementing the appropriate use of personal and positional power became an essential tool. I needed to constantly be wary of using personal power as a tool for manipulation. And that line can get really foggy sometimes. But perhaps the most comprehensive and inclusive understanding of power came my way through becoming familiar with the work of Dr. Karen Warren, a professor emeritus of philosophy and religion at Macalester College in St. Paul. She starts her discourse on power by referring to Rosabeth Moss Cantor's definition of the ability to mobilize resources to achieve self-determined ends. Warren goes on to suggest that the use of human power is inappropriate when it creates or maintains, or is intended to create or maintain, unjustified relationships of domination and subordination. And in her texts and her work, she goes on elaborately to talk about what is unjustified versus justified domination and subordination, which can be a whole course in of itself. But I'm going to ask you now to ponder Warren's 5 types of power that she goes into depth and helps us to give some definition and framework. First is power over power, power with power, power within power, power against power, and power towards power. So first of all, power over power. This is what we would often consider to be the up-down relationships. Some good examples of that would be our parenting skills and safety considerations preventing harm for others. So there are times when we have to be firm and take up-down, like if our child's going to touch this hot top of the stove, or throw something into the fire that shouldn't be in the fire, or in my farm situation, climb on tractors, or play on things that I am quite certain if not done well could cause harm. Of course, harmful power over power would be keeping those in subordinate and subdominant positions down. Intentional, unintentional oppression. And certainly we have lots of examples of that through economics, deprivation of access to loans, to food, to clothing, to all kinds of things. And housing, we have tremendous examples of power over being used. Law enforcement, military, whatever. Power with power. Coalition, solidarity, relatively equalizing power relationships with others. There certainly are good and harmful examples of each. The good would be current class, would be things like our event with Jonah and our involvement with the community table, all of the different things that our congregation is involved in, helping and promoting for the good of the greater good. Certainly there are some negative things happening right now. There's a class action lawsuit that a group of white farmers in the Midwest is taking against the USDA loan forgiveness program, COVID-19 loan forgiveness program that's being offered to socially disadvantaged farmers. And so this class action lawsuit is out there saying that, with all the history of disparity in loans to people of color, that this legislation is meant to try to neutralize some of that, and the class action lawsuit is meant to say you can't do that. So there's some power with power that one could suggest might be detrimental to the greater good. Power within power, mobilized around one's own inner resources, things that we do to affirm ourselves, to help become whole. Certainly on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you would be looking at the self-actualization, personal strength, courage, self-affirmation. Certainly within our congregation, things that I find very helpful in terms of power within is my chalice circle. I'm also involved in a group called Inner Compass that we meet a couple times a month to ponder and think about mindfulness and ways of working through dealing with COVID and such things. So that power within is, what do we find within ourselves to help us to overcome the obstacles of life that come to us and help us to gain and our personal agency, to find our voice and to use our voices. Power against power would be more defined by the power exercised by downs against the ups. So within the up-down context would be civil disobedience as an example. For example, the Me Too movement and the Black Lives Matter movement and the things that the people are trying to do in Myanmar and Taiwan to neutralize, to go up against the power to make their world a better world. Then the power toward power, a process of movement from one habit, lifestyle, set of behaviors or system beliefs to another. It's very situational depending on the outcomes, but we would think about reforms in our systems. It could be personal or systemic or systematic reform where we're working collaboratively to try to change the power that's out there. As is obvious from these descriptions of power, nothing is absolute. They are merely frameworks for consideration and completely situational. And perhaps they're helpful in thinking that there is a wide range of possibility when we think about power. These days, I feel like I need a daily reminder and meditation on my use of power, or perhaps my reluctance or fear to use the power I have when it's called for. It may be as simple as reflecting on how I interact with my farm animals, to how I handle a situation with my siblings, the farm families who participate on my farm, or any one of the social groups I'm involved with. or it may be reflecting on action that intuitively I felt drawn to take, but then didn't. I have a guided meditation that I listen to each night. It begins with deep relaxation and then requires I explore my day from outside my person to review how my mind and actions aligned with my personal goals for how I desire to live my life. And so it can be thinking like, even in the process of during the course of the day, if I have thoughts in my head that are detrimental to me or negative against a person, it causes me to think about those that at night before I go to bed and let them go. My grandmother once said, never go to bed angry. And I would say, to not go to bed with angst or anger or discourse in your heart, to let that go and figure out a process to let that go. For example, I want to take the use of power to a really basic level. My experience with the farm animals is that they are very intuitive to the essence of personal power among the humans that they interact with. Warren would refer to those animals and plants and trees and everything else as the non-human others that we interact with. I usually included the sheep as part of the interview process when interviewing for farm help. When the sheep just mildly lifted their heads to look at the new person and then resume what they were doing, or perhaps they would come over to the new person, give them a sniff, and then go back to what they're doing, I was pretty sure this person would work out. However, there were times when I would introduce a person and the sheep would take off running at first glance. Those people were probably not going to work out very well on the farm. Overall, I have tried to be respectful to the animals' agencies as individual beings while providing guidance and caring for them. And some days are far better than others. Where the forms of power are used appropriate or not, I'm reminded of the importance of being present, of being mindful of all the beings surrounding me and their agency and value. The process of recognizing and honoring the agency of all beings is letting go of my desire, our desire to dominate. I have the privilege of caring for a child who is not quite yet able to understand that there are times that the cats don't want to be held. The sheep do not want to be pet. The college students I brought to the farm during my teaching of ecofeminism many would have a very difficult time letting go of the dire desire to pet the animals and allowing the animals to be in control of the situation. And this is a foundational form of power that intertwines with entitlement. I want, and therefore I should have. And I think that's a really difficult concept, especially when we're working, not only with humans, but animals and all of our world environment. There have been many times within the past several years where I have deeply questioned if I've done enough to help others. Have I used my voice, my passion, and my privilege to the best of my ability for the greater good? And then I reflect back on the Gibran reading on reason and passion to gain some insight. Let me reiterate, your reason and your passion are the rudder and the sails of your seafaring soul. If either your sails or your rudder be broken, you can but toss and drift, or else be held at a standstill in mid-seas. Perhaps ultimately, it is about being mindful and contemplative. Perhaps the role of power in our lives is essentially linked to the balance of reason and passion. We must rest and give ourselves a time and a place for reason. And then we must let our passion come through in an intentional action. We have agency and the power to do good. We have the option, we have the responsibility to choose where and when to use power. Making those choices, we make those choices we make thoughtfully, with compassion and love in our hearts. I want to close with a quote by Anne Morrow Lindbergh. I want to give and take from my children and husband, to share with friends and community, to carry out my obligations to man and to the world, as a woman, as an artist, as a citizen. But I want, first of all, in fact, as an end to these other desires, to be at peace with myself. I want a singleness of eye, a purity of intention, a central core to my life that will enable me to carry out these obligations and activities as well as I can. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurel. Now is the time in our service where we share of our abundance in our lives, and we give to people in need and support the work of this congregation. And before I share again the information for our 50-50 Share the Plate, we received good news that we have met our fundraising goal and more, a good bit more for technology. And so we will be concluding that fundraiser and moving ahead. And thank you so much to everyone who contributed to that and continues to support this congregation in so many ways, just as Laurel has done with her gifts of words and the gifts of music today. We are so grateful for all of you. And our 50-50 Share the Plate recipient for May is the Wellness Shack. You can donate online at uueauclair.com or text to give at 84321. I know there are many people who have benefited from this service of the Wellness Shack that helps offer a place of welcome for those who are living with mental health struggles. So now the offering will now be given and so very gratefully received. Thank you.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Thank you so much for joining us today in our service. Our closing words are as follows. Though this world is turbulent, there are still days and places that we can be afforded some tranquility. When this happens, it is right to rest from the tribulations and striving of being in the world, to take advantage of what is offered. Sometimes it will be the peaceful feeling of the sunset, when the blazing sun becomes reconciled with the horizon and a sense of acceptance lingers in the air. At other times, it will be the chance encounter with a secret place, perhaps a grove of trees that promises a mysterious comfort. In such private places, we can often find peace. Such stillness can even be precious as when we notice the deep voice of a stream, which we were always too busy to hear before. Indeed, sometimes we are so worn out by our daily activities that we forget to notice our need for recharging. Renewal is a profound topic. With sanctuary and rest, we can prepare to go forth again. And this is from the 365 Tao by Ding Ning Tao. Thank you for joining us. And in Zoom today, we will have a choir breakout room for the choir. We will have a breakout room during coffee for the choir, as well as safety and reopening conversations, and of course, coffee and conversation. Again, thank you to all who offered their gifts for this service, and as always, in support of the love and community of this congregation. Go in peace and go in love.